All right, we're live.
Are we live? I didn't see it.
We are live.
Hi, we're here, Wellness Wednesday. And today we are in the kitchen because it is Sourdough September. And I'm so excited to talk about this and show you guys how I make my sourdough bread. So I know some of people that are friends with me on Facebook have seen um, my sourdough bread I've made. And I started doing this back in the spring. A gal I know did a workshop, and I was interested in learning because I know how many benefits there are of eating sourdough. And after I went, then I started Googling and YouTubing and TikToking all of the sourdough people. And I kind of made it my own by picking different things from different places and developing it and practicing it and getting better and better and better at it. Because the first few that I did were really blonde and very flat and pretty heavy. So I'm going to give you guys the tips that I've learned along the way where I make mine darker now. You have to bring it to a certain temperature, which I'll talk about, and it rises a lot better. And then while I'm showing you guys what I'm putting into my little bowl here and explaining it or putting it together, Kim's going to talk to you about the many benefits of a sourdough bread. All right. So, first things first is you have to name your sourdough, and it's called the mother. And my mother's name is not my real mother's name, but my sourdough's name, sourdough mother. Her name is Eleanor because that was my grandma. So
Oh,
this is her. And so if you see this, I keep mine in the refrigerator. That way I only have to feed my mother every 7 to 10 days. If you keep it on the counter, you have to make a lot more bread and you have to feed it every day, and it starts overflowing. So I learned that the hard way. But if you see here, I have this elastic band on here, rubber band. And today, when I took it out of the refrigerator, it was only up to here. And then I gave it 120 grams of bread flour and 120 grams of water. And I went out of the house and left for a little while and just came back. So it's probably been 2 hours, and it went from here, and look how high it is. So
it's huge.
just in that time, yeah. So I know that it's active. And that's the key I'm going to tell you guys is make sure that your sourdough mother is active. If you do it and you take it like right out of the refrigerator and you don't let it come to room temperature and you just throw it in, you're going to have flatbread, because I've done that. I've rushed before, and we don't want to have flatbread. So anyway, here's what we do. So we take 2 cups of water, and I'm going to put it in this bowl, and then I'm going to take a half a cup of the mother, and I'm going to put her in there, and then I'm going to stir it with this special tool, because I got to have all the special tools now that I'm doing this,
That's
because it
cool.
just doesn't work right the other way. So
Right.
I'll stir that together, and then I'll take 4 cups of sifted, and you can use bread flour, you can use wheat flour, you can use rye, you can use regular flour, whatever you want, you can use in there, but 4 cups, and you have to have it sifted. And I'm going to sift it into this little bowl, and I had to have this too. So this is what I use for my bread to raise. Once I get it all together, mixed up,
Mhm.
I'm going to show you how you tug and fold it, and you have to, and I'll explain it while I'm doing it, and then I let it raise in here overnight. So Kim will go ahead and tell you
Wow.
the benefits as I start putting this together. So I'm going
Yeah,
to put this down on my little bowl. Good. All right,
we got it. Live in
go
action.
for it.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. So, what I didn't know, and I've been looking up all about sourdough bread because I do like to eat it and I like the taste of it. If you've ever had it, it's like a tangy kind of bread. But there are a lot of benefits to it, and it is the oldest leavened bread. It's been made for over thousands of years. So I thought that was interesting. So it's an old bread, but now it's kind of been revived as a lot of people are making it because it does have many health benefits. One of them is it's less gluten if you are gluten intolerant, or if you have celiac disease, you probably don't want to eat it or try it, or just be careful. But and it does have less gluten in it. It's easier to digest with the lactic acid. It's very simple ingredients. It's water, flour, salt, and then the mother is a starter mix of water, flour, water, and that's been fermented. So I thought that was really interesting. So fermented food is really healthy for your gut. So that's why sourdough bread, it's actually healthy for your gut health. And so acts as a prebiotic, which is a fiber. So that fiber feeds your good bacteria in your gut, and your good bacteria are happy eating that, if you will. And so that's just one way to help your gut out. So I think that's cool. And it is important for maintaining a stable digestive system. So that's really good if you have a sensitive tummy. Sourdough bread could be a good alternative for you. It also has a lower glycemic index than regular bread, which means it won't spike your blood sugar like other breads can, which is really important if you're pre-diabetic, diabetic. You don't, or anyone, we don't want our blood sugar to go up and down and up and down. We want to keep it as level as possible. So I think that's pretty cool. Let's see. The one thing I learned, Robin, and maybe you can speak to this, is that like the starter can get contaminated. And what you want to
Yes.
look out for, okay, is if it never bubbles, that's a bad sign. If it develops green, pink, orange, or black patches, that's not a good sign either. Or if it appears fuzzy. So have you ever seen that, Robin?
So no, not with, well, actually, I take that back. Not with like when I just learned to do this in the spring. Let me do this
Okay.
so you can see what I'm sifting.
Yeah.
But when I tried to make my own starter, I did have issues with that. It's very
Okay.
difficult to make your own starter. I have found. So this starter that I have is 150-year-old from a 150-year-old starter from an Amish lady. So it's like the best starter. And I think you'd have to be really negligent to kill it. I
Okay.
mean, yeah. And it happens like if you would leave it in your refrigerator for like a month or something and not do anything, then I would say it probably, or if you left it on the counter, then it would probably, go
Wow.
bad. But other
Yeah.
than that, it takes a lot to kill it if it's a
Okay.
good starter. Yeah.
That's
But
such a
here I
cool,
am.
that's a cool whip thing. That's really,
Right? So it makes a difference. I was using, just like a regular kitchen spoon, but then
Mhm.
I saw this, a rubber spoon or whatever, and then this, it just it gathers it together. So
Wow.
now that I got all those ingredients in there, now I'm going to mix it all together. And so it's got the salt in it. It's got the I use organic flour too, guys. Organic. I get these huge bags at Costco. So once you get this all together, then you get to get your hands in there. I try to get all the flour off of the sides,
Mhm.
right?
Oh,
Because you want to get all that dry stuff out of there. And then have clean hands, of course. Then I take it off of there, and then I just kind of take it over and I scoop it around a little bit. Now, they say try not to touch it too much um, when you're putting it together, but you do got to get it together a
mhm.
little bit to be able to do the next step, which is called a stretch and fold. And when I do my stretch and folds, I I spray a little bit of a spray in the bottom of it.
Is that like an olive oil
So
spray?
stuff doesn't, yeah, so it doesn't stick.
Okay.
So this, you kind of
Um,
stretch it up and
uh-huh.
then you fold it over. And then you go a quarter turn and you stretch it up and you fold it over. And then you go another quarter turn and you stretch it and you fold it. And then another quarter turn. So you're doing 4 quarter turns. You stretch it and then you fold it over. And then I just kind of tuck it over and then I'll put a little piece of saran wrap over the top of this.
Mhm.
I let it sit for 30 minutes. I go back in 30 minutes and I do another set of those stretch and folds. Then
Okay.
you'll start to see all those little, like, weird looking pockets, they start to disappear and it starts to get really smooth. Then I go back, I let it sit for 30 more minutes and I do stretch and fold again. And I let it sit another 30 minutes and I do a fourth set of stretch and folds. Once my dough went flying. Once you've got your fourth stretch and folds, then that's when I put it in this basket here, and I put a little bit of rice flour on top of it with a piece of saran wrap, and then I put it in the refrigerator overnight.
Mhm.
The next morning I get up, I take this out, I leave it in this basket, and I leave it sit. So I do all my morning stuff. I go teach my classes. And then when, like, say if I come around noon, if I get it out at 6 or 7 in the morning, if I come around like 11 or 12 noon, whatever, you can tell it's started to rise a little bit. Then I'll leave it there and I'll leave it there. And what I like it to do is I like it to come up, say an inch or two up out of this basket. When it does that, typically it's, what I usually end up baking my bread at like 5 or 7 at night.
Oh,
So yeah.
okay.
So then once it's raised, then I let it do that, or I let it raise, and then I put it in. So that's when at that point is when I put in extra ingredients. So if I'm going to make, like, our favorite is blueberry lemon. If I'm going to do that, then I'll incorporate the blueberries and lemon rind at that time, and I'll do those stretch and folds again. It's kind of a stretch and fold. It's more like you'll put the ingredients on top of it and then you stretch it over, then you put more ingredients and you stretch it over.
Okay.
It's like a folding technique.
Yeah.
I've made cinnamon and chocolate. I've made all olives and
Ooh.
Parmesan and roasted red pepper. I will say, if you do any of the ingredients, it's better to have a toaster oven than a toaster, because sometimes, like, the blueberries will go down in your toaster and catch on fire. So if you have a toaster oven, it's better if you're going to toast it. But yeah, and then you put it in the oven, and it takes a good 60 minutes. And when you hold on, do you have more to tell them? Because I'm going to wash my
Yeah.
hands,
Yeah.
and then
Go
I'm going
wash
to tell them
your
how
hands.
to
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then you give them more benefits if you got it.
Yeah, no, I was just going to talk about it's an excellent the bread is an excellent source of antioxidants, and there's a peptide that's found in sourdough that can lower the risk for certain types of cancer, signs of aging, or chronic diseases like rheumatoid arthritis. And I thought, wow, rheumatoid, not rheumatoid,
Right?
rheumatoid arthritis. And
Right.
I'm like, what? That's something, reduce signs of aging too. I gotta start making me some of this bread.
Well, it's the active cultures,
Mhm.
it's all natural, and it's, I think you said good for your gut health.
Yeah, very,
It's all that active,
yeah.
and real. It's real. And I will say, like, even if you get sourdough in the store, like the prepackaged sourdough, it's not going to be as good for
As
you. You
as
still need to read the ingredient
Yeah,
labels.
I wonder if it's still alive, culture's in there because
So I don't know, like, because I would say, like, the sourdough is from, like, a company. I don't know. You just have to be careful.
right,
Now, if they make it in the store, I would say that would be better, because sometimes or in a
yeah,
bakery, I'm
yeah, yeah,
sure
yeah,
that that's amazing.
right.
So here's what you want to use when you bake it, is the Dutch oven. And this is heavy duty. And you leave it in here, and I'm telling you, mine takes about an hour. I'll put it in for 45 minutes. I'll pull it out, and I'll put a thermometer in it. Your thermometer should reach between 206 and 210.
Oh,
And it's high temperature, because you're watching that and you're smelling that bread and you're like, come on, get to 206. So I'll say, I think only once I've made it to 210, because I can't stand it. And Greg's like, you got to take that out of there. And then the other tip that I'll give is definitely use the thermometer, 206 to 210.
mhm,
And then you take this off for like the last 5 minutes,
mhm.
to let it brown up nice. Um, but the other tip is, do not cut it until it is fully cool.
Oh,
Because, yeah, if you cut it, it's going to make it deflate a little bit and get a little doughy. I would always wait until it was fully cool, and then, then you go through and it cuts really nice.
so I have a question. What do you bake it in the oven, correct?
Yes.
And what's the temperature? I know you said
Oh,
60 minutes.
450 degrees.
Okay, oh, that's pretty hot.
Yeah, it's very hot. So
Yep.
definitely make sure that your Dutch oven is oven safe, because
Yeah.
I have Dutch ovens that were only stovetop safe, so I had to buy a new one. You can also make these in a loaf pan. I have done it in a loaf pan, but Greg prefers it in the
And it comes out like a round loaf then,
it
right?
does.
And then you
It
slice
does.
it.
I might have a little bit of, no, I don't. Guess what? It's bread baking time. That's all I have left from my last loaf.
Ooh,
And
that
this was
looks
the
like
blueberry
cherry.
lemon.
Oh,
Yeah,
blueberry.
that's the blueberry. Yeah.
Have
So,
you tried with the olives? Have you tried jalapenos in there as well?
you know what? I haven't done that because Greg doesn't really care for those very
Oh,
much. But yeah, cheddar, like jalapeno cheddar or something like
mhm.
that, is one that I know a lot of people
That
make.
sounds
And
good.
I'll try it at some point, but I don't typically have them around.
You know what?
But if anybody has questions, put it in the post below, um,
I
and we
want to
can
start
answer
making this.
questions.
I think for the winter, that'd be a good winter thing to do with soups and stuff too.
Oh, sure, for sure.
I think it'd
We
be good.
love it. So we don't even eat anything else now. You know, I it I've had people say, "Oh my gosh, that just sounds so time consuming." And it kind of is, but it's not time consuming for you. It just, you have to plan ahead.
Right,
Like, you have to plan that you're going to let it rise a little bit. You have to plan that you're going to put it in the refrigerator overnight
right.
and you got to plan that you're going to bake it. And listen, I am no expert, and I'm sure that someone out there now is like, "What is she talking about?" Because that is totally wrong. And you know what? It might be, but this is what works for me.
Yeah.
And finally, I've gotten to the point where it tastes really good and we love it. So there's lots of different tips out there. Look them up.
So
But
when you um try your different, additives that you add in, do you are you getting those from another recipe? So you know how to I need a half a cup of
you know
olives.
what?
Olives. You just kind
So
of
I am from the school of throw everything in. I I typically don't. That's how I cook.
Mhm.
I don't measure. So no. Now, do I measure this? Yes, because this has to be,
Yeah.
pretty spot on. But as far as like the ingredients, like what I'm throwing in, I just take a handful of blueberries, I smash them in there and zest up some zest and throw it in, and then yeah. And I will say, less is not more with this. When you're flavoring them,
Mm.
more is more.
Okay.
And I
Oh,
think it's because it's baking at such a high temperature and it bakes off. Because I'll say with my cinnamon and stuff, it's been very subtle. So I
mm,
know to add a
add
lot
more.
more. And even with the chocolate, like I could have used a lot more. And I used, cacao powder and whatever, but
Interesting.
yeah, it could take
Well,
more.
I appreciate you sharing this because it makes it seem very doable and not scary. Because I want to tell you my real scary story real quick on making kombucha. I don't know if you ever
Oh,
kombucha. I know
no.
my friend, I went over to her house and she's like kombucha queen. She gave me the mother to start. She told me everything what to do. And I put this thing in a big jar and just put it in my closet downstairs for like 8 months. I forgot about it.
Oh no.
And then I went down, I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing is like an alien. What happened? It had grown so big. And so I called my friend. I said, I don't know what to do with this. I'm afraid of it. Can I just give it back to you? And she said, sure. So anyway,
Oh, that's
that's
so
mine.
funny.
Oh, that stuff that grows,
Well,
that scares me. But this one
right.
doesn't look that scary.
Well, it can grow. And the other thing I want to say is, like, this is a lot, right? So I had to put it in a really big mason jar. So what, you'll hear a term called discard. And I
Mhm.
was so confused by discard. What is discard? Well, you know what discard is? This is discard. It's whatever you don't use to make your bread, it's your leftover. So you can make lots of things with this leftover sourdough. I mean, I'll keep feeding it, but like when it gets too big, like right now, it's too big. So I'm going to make chocolate chip cookies, um, sourdough chocolate chip cookies, and they are the best cookies, because you know how you said it has that little tang in there.
Yep.
That is the difference. And I do with brown butter as well.
Mm.
But it's all organic butter and natural. So
So where do you get the mother? I mean, how do you you order one? What do you?
You can get one off of me. Now I know that
You're in
if you're
Columbus.
near, if you're in Columbus, I have plenty. If anybody wants any,
Perfect.
you can. I think you can order online because I had another girl that had it, and she had let her other mother go bad, and
Ooh,
she ordered it from some baking place. So if you
yeah,
search online
yeah.
sourdough,
Okay.
I'm sure that they can package it and send it to you. But I'm telling you, this one, it's so good. I was so glad that that gal had that little get
And
together. And
she gave it to you guys. She gave everybody.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool. I'll have to look
yeah.
around
So
in Cincinnati and
yeah, it
see
was good.
doing that.
Well, if you're ever up through,
Probably my friend who makes kombucha has a starter. I'll have to hit her
right?
up.
Exactly, exactly. Hey, you can also make sourdough pancakes. I mean, if you just look
Wow.
up what can I make with sourdoughs discard, like tons of things come up. So,
Okay. Good to know. Well, thank you.
yep,
Thanks for sharing that, Robin. You make it
yep,
really not but simple. It's like simple
yeah,
steps to
it
do it.
is. I think once you get going, now at first it was confusing and blah. But the more
Yeah.
I did it and the more I researched it, the easier it got. So,
Cool. Wow. Well, I like
so
that.
stay healthy and eat that sourdough bread, guys.
That's right. Get
So
you
good for you.
start making your sourdough, and we want you all to have fun and live young. And we'll see you
Yep.
next on our Wellness Wednesday. All right.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.